Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie, and I have some fun fall leaf projects for you today. But first, don't forget to hit subscribe, the bell to be notified when I post, and a thumbs up is always appreciated. Okay, so I wanted to do like fall leaves for my projects today, and I found this wood leaf from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted to try a new technique. Now, I heard that you could attach fabric or paper to wood with a Ziploc bag or plastic wrap. So I'm going to try it with plastic wrap. So I just have my pressing pillow just because my parchment paper, my wood leaf I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cover that with some plastic wrap. And then I am going to put the fabric on top. Now I picked up this fabric at Dollar Tree. It's like a light blue and white gingham. And I thought it was really pretty and kind of goes with my coastal decor in my house. And I like blue for fall. I think it's fun. So I'm just going to cover up the plastic wrap. And then I'm also going to put some parchment paper on top just to protect my Easy Press. And that's what I'm going to use. I'm just using it at 400 degrees. I don't think it really matters. If you don't have an Easy Press, an iron I think will definitely work too. And I'm just trying to melt that plastic, and that's what's going to attach the fabric to the wood leaf. So I really don't know how long it's going to take, so I'm just kind of moving my iron around, trying to get it hot enough to make that plastic wrap work. And this is a way easier, cleaner method than Mod Podge, I think. And I really like it. I'll definitely be trying this again. I think I'm going to try it with like scrapbook paper. So I'm just kind of ironing all around now because I want to make sure that that fabric is attached, all the little points on that leaf. And I think that about does it. So let's see what we've got. I'm going to turn the fabric over, take off the parchment paper. Now the plastic that was around the leaf, the extra plastic was actually really easy to remove because it kind of all stuck together, and so you can just peel that right off. And it is secured to the leaf really well. So now the chore is to cut the fabric from around the leaf. And that was probably the most time-consuming part of this project. The melting the plastic was totally easy, and I would totally recommend it. It worked really, really well. So I'm going in with my scissors, and I'm trying to cut as close to the wood as I can. And I start with my fabric scissors here, but they couldn't get quite close enough around all of those little corners, so I'm going to switch to my little tiny scissors, little detail scissors. And I'm going to go all the way around this leaf and trim that as close as I can get to the wood. I was thinking that this was probably like the wrong first project to try this with because of all the intricate cutting. But I just took my time and went all the way around and trimmed all the fabric. And I'm speeding this way up because it did take a little bit. But it stuck really well. Now, I'm not really worrying about the fraying from cutting the fabric because I'm going to actually go in there with that sanding block from the Dollar Tree and rough it up because I think it would look even cooler with a little bit of distressed fabric around the edges and give it even more texture. I really like the idea of putting fabric on a sign. Anytime I can bring some texture in, I think it's gonna make it look more rustic. I really like that vibe. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going around and trying to rough up any little corners that I can get to with the fabric and just make it fray just a little bit. And I get it about how I want it. Just want it to look a little bit rustic. I mean, I don't want like the frays to be really long, and so I do go in here and just trim up a few of them that looked a little extra rough just because I didn't want it to like, you know, fall apart. I wanted it to be pretty intact when I go to attach this to my fall sign. So you know I love these chalkboards from the Dollar Tree. They're easy to find, they're really thick, they're flat, and so they make great signs. I'm gonna go ahead and cut some of this contact paper from the Dollar Tree to cover the back of my sign, just because I like the back of my signs and projects to be finished too. I think it looks better, and that way I can work with the back, which is solid black. And I won't have to worry about covering up all of that writing that was on the front of the sign. So I'm just gonna use my sanding block from the Dollar Tree and go around the edges, and that's gonna give me a perfectly clean cut around my borders and give me a really clean back to my project. And I like to do the back first because if you did it last, then you might mess up your final project, and that would be no good. So I'm gonna have the sign go up and down like it was originally made. That way I can use the same holes there on the top. But the only thing bad about the back of the sign is that giant sticky tag. So I'm trying to figure out the scraper I picked up at the Dollar Tree. And I'm just gonna use heat with my heat gun and a scraper to try to get that tag off. It's really stuck on there really well. I wish they wouldn't use so much adhesive on this one, or put a tag on the string would be good. So you can see there's still a lot of adhesive on there, so I do have to use some Goo Gone to clean up the back of that sign, so I will have a nice, beautiful, flat surface to work with for my fall sign. Okay, that's much better. You can still see it, but it's like not sticky, and once I'm done with it, you won't be able to see that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go all over with like a sloppy coat of this ivory chalk paint by Waverly. Now, what I wanna do with this sign is make it look like a wood sign, but I don't want it to be like a dark wood. And so if I were to do like anti-wax over the black, it's gonna give me a really dark wood look. But if I do the anti-wax over ivory, it's gonna give me a light color of wood, which goes more with my beach decor in my house and the vibe I wanted with this sign. So I kind of all went in one direction there, so I would have some, you know, variations, the stripes like it would be in wood. And one coat is all it's gonna take for that. I don't want really good coverage because I do want it to look kind of like wood. And I'm just drying that chalk paint with my heat gun. And then I'm gonna go in with that Antique Wax by Waverly and my chunky brush, and I am just gonna go up and down just like I did with the ivory paint, and be really sloppy so that my lines aren't straight. I kind of want them to vary a little bit, and you can do whatever you want to try to make it look like wood. You can put like a little circle in here or there to make it kind of look like a knot. Just kind of go all over and give it kind of a random look, and that's gonna give you way more of a wood look. Now I'm gonna go in with just a paper towel and wipe off the excess. That paper towel had a design on it. It actually put the design on there, which was kind of cool. But I'm just kind of wiping off the excess, and look, it kind of looks like wood, right? I was impressed by how this turned out. I think it looks really kind of cool. So once I have all the excess wax off, that is gonna do it for the finish of that sign. So I'm just giving it a dry to dry that antique wax so that I can keep working on this fall sign. And I want to put the leaf on the bottom like that. So I am going to measure how much room I have for some writing. And what I'm going to do is cut out a stencil with my Cricut so that I can hand paint something on the top of that sign. And this is it. I got this stencil paper on Amazon. I'll post a link for it below. It's really good. I'm really impressed with it so far. And I'm going to put "It's Fall, Y'all" on this sign. I thought it was cute, and I kind of off-centered it like that so that maybe the leaf tip can come up on the right side. So I'm going to use some of my paper transfer paper and attach that stencil to my sign. This is one of my favorite things for my Cricut is making stencils. I love hand-painted signs. I think they look so pretty. So just putting that on there, making sure it's down good, and then I'm just going to go around the edges of my stencil with some painter's tape so that I don't get paint anywhere I don't want it. And I'm going to use that ivory chalk paint again by Waverly, and just one of those foam stencil brushes from the Dollar Tree, and pounce all over that. Now you have to kind of be careful usually when you're drying those stencils that you don't melt it with the heat gun. But this stencil seems pretty thick. I haven't had any problems with it melting. So I went in there with a second coat of the ivory because I really want it to be really bright. When I pull off the stencil, and there you go, it's fall, y'all. Just gotta weed out the center of those cursive signs. And I may have taken it off a little soon because I did mess up the F just a tiny bit. So I'm just touching that up with a small paintbrush until it looks pretty good. And drying that with my heat gun. And I'm gonna go ahead and use that same rope that came on the sign before and just pop it through the back there. And I like my knots to be on the front. That way it will lay against the wall a little bit better. Now I want to attach this leaf to the front, and I kind of like it like that. So I'm going to use a combination of wood glue and hot glue, if I can get it there. There we go. That way it'll stay on there quickly, yet that wood glue is gonna hold it on and secure. And that's all there is to that sign. I love how it turned out. I really liked that method of using the plastic wrap and the fabric on the wood. How cute is that? And then there was a little area over there on the side that I thought needed a little something. So I'm gonna use some of this raffia from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to attempt to. I hate working with this stuff because it's so messy. And then I'm just going to try to make a simple bow with the raffia just to attach over just another texture for the sign. I didn't like my first one, so here I am attempting bow number 2. I thinned it out a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of trim it up to make it look not so crazy. And then I'm just gonna attach that to the sign with a dot of hot glue. And the first project is in the books. What do you guys think? I think this sign turned out really cute. Okay, up next, I wanted to make kind of like a fence project. So I'm using, I don't know what these are called. Are they called pallets? These little wood fence pieces, I call them fences, from the Dollar Tree, and I want to use those to make like a fall sign that can go on my shelf. So I'm using my Antique Wax by Waverly and just staining that wood. I do have to use a little brush in addition to the foam brush just to get in those cracks because you can see that wood showing through from the brace below, just because I want it to look uniform. Now, this stuff stains the wood from the Dollar Tree and any wood so easily. You just gotta put it on there and then wipe off the excess with a paper towel and you are good to go. So I decided 3 of these was gonna be about the right width for the fall sign that I wanted to make. And we have all 3 stained. Now I wanna attach them together and I am just gonna use some of these long wood sticks. I picked these up on Amazon, I believe. I will post a link to those, but you could always use popsicle sticks or whatever you have, maybe even a ruler. And I am going to use hot glue to attach the signs together, side to side like that. I thought about spacing them out a little bit to keep the spacing going, but I decided in the end to just go ahead and put them flush together like that. And then I'm going to use these little sticks. I'm going to cut them with my miter scissors there, and I'm going to cut one for the top and one for the bottom. Now when I glue them on there, I'm just going to glue them where the braces already are on the main sign, just with a little bit of hot glue, and that way you won't be able to see that from the front, but it will keep the sign together and make it a little bit more stable. Okay, so I wanted to use one of these wood leaves from the Dollar Tree. I guess they're ornaments. And then I thought I would spell out fall with popsicle sticks that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. So I thought FLL would be really easy to make out of popsicle sticks because they're all straight lines. And then I can use the leaf for the A in the fall sign. So I am just trimming those to size, trying to make my F and my L's all about the same height and make them comparable to my leaf there in the middle. And just cutting off the pieces to my L and the side pieces to my F. And these are really easy to cut. I'm just using some heavy duty scissors and snipping right through those popsicle sticks. And I like how that looks. So I am gonna go in and first I'm gonna fill in that little hole on the top of my ornament with just a little bit of spackle. And we are ready to paint these. I thought it would be easier to paint the letters and the leaf before I put them on the sign since I've already stained it. So I'm going to use that Ivory Chalk Paint by Waverly and just a foam brush, and I'm just going to go in and one coat is all it's going to take on those popsicle sticks. That raw wood is really easy to paint, and honestly the color that these turn out is not much different than they were, so you could even leave it like natural wood. It would have looked pretty. And they're kind of moving all over the place, but I get them painted. And I'm trying to dry them with my heat gun. They're so tiny, they're just like blowing away because they're so lightweight. And we have our letters for our fall sign. A little bit of paint on the back. I wasn't being too careful there. And here's the F. We got the leaf and our L, and I'm kind of just trying to space them out to make it fit. And then I'm just going to attach those letters to my sign with a little bit of hot glue. So first I'm going to do the leaf, and then I'm going to kind of do the letters around that. And you could still kind of see that hole there. So I just put a little bit more spackling in there to try to disguise that. And I end up kind of crowding the L's a little bit. And so to prevent them from touching, I do trim them up just a little bit. Because once I glue this L on, I felt like I didn't have enough room. See? So I just make the little ends of my L's a little bit shorter so that everything will fit. And then I'm just gonna sand that to get that smooth and glue that one on. These are really lightweight, so they're really easy to glue on with just hot glue and fast. And doesn't that look good? I mean, it looks really like you had liquid letters. I was really impressed with the popsicle sticks for the letters. And you know your girl has to distress it, so I'm just going in with a chunky brush from Dollar Tree and a little bit of antique wax and just distressing my letters on their edges and kind of all over. Then I'm going to go back in with a baby wipe and wipe off the excess to leave that nice weathered look. I think it looks great with my coastal decor. It also looks, you know, very farmhouse, very weathered. And I love that vibe. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm thinking that I can use some of these. I have these giant Jenga blocks that I bought at Five Below for like $10. I love them. If you don't have them, you could always use the small Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree. You just have to glue a bunch of them together. Because the sign is kind of big, you kind of need a little bit of support back there. And whatever you've got, you can even use like a plate holder or something else like that. And I am just attaching those to that brace that we attached to the back of the sign with just hot glue. And then I'm just going to stain the top there just to make it look a little bit more uniform in case you can see the top of my sign from the top. And then I decide that I still don't like that little hole in my leaf, so I am just going to make a very simple bow out of my twine from the Dollar Tree and just glue that on where that hole was on my ornament. It will give it a little final touch to the fall sign and cover that little spot. So I'm just attaching that with just a little dot of hot glue. And this sign is complete. What do you guys think? I think it turned out pretty cute. Okay, up next, I wanted to make a fall wreath. And I found some great blue leaves from Dollar Tree. And you know, I love blue, and my house is so blue. I live near the ocean. I love it. I think it's so pretty for coastal, but I also love it for fall. I think it goes great with the orange pumpkins and stuff like that. So I'm using one of those grapevine wreath forms from the Dollar Tree and these blue leaves. At first, I was just like, I will just use some twine and wrap around as I go, but I found that to be a little cumbersome. Now the blue leaves, when they come off 2 at a time, and so I was kind of trying to attach them 2 at a time, and then I decided it would probably be easier to work with them if I just cut them all individually, and so that's what I do. Now the wreath already has the twine wrapped around it, so you can kind of use that when you're putting the leaves on there. You can also try to poke into the grapevine too. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it's kind of hard and they kind of fall out some. So I end up using a combination of hot glue, the twine that's already on there, sticking them in there. I just kind of kept doing different things until I could get it secure on the sign. And I'm not going to go all the way around the wreath with the blue leaves. I think I'm just going to do like the left side and the bottom. And so I'm kind of layering them where they're all kind of laying on each other, going up on the left there. And if it felt unstable, I just went in with twine and tied off a little extra twine until I got it really good and secure. I wanted to make sure that my leaves weren't going to go anywhere. So I would just take them all off the stems and then cut them in 2. And now I can start working on the bottom of the sign. And I'm going to kind of do that the same way I did the left side, where I'm going to have them all kind of lay on each other like that. And they will meet down there on the bottom left side. Now, when I was making this wreath, I wanted it to look, wood. So you've got the wood part of the wreath. And then I wanted it to look blue because, that's like one of my fall colors. But I also wanted it to look white, because that's a color that I'm using a lot too with my decor. And so I will bring that in with some more flowers and decorations once I get all my blue leaves on here. And this would be beautiful with whatever leaves you decide. Dollar Tree has red, orange, yellow, brown. They've got a great selection of fall leaves at most of my Dollar Trees right now. And they're so pretty. So now I'm to that point in the middle there and trying to decide how full I need to get it. I thought these white flowers that I picked up at the Dollar Tree would look pretty as a nice contrast. I'm kind of deciding where I want them and how many of those I want. And then I decided I needed a few more blue leaves there where they meet up in the middle. So I'm just kind of finishing them up. I also have these little white flowers that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. I thought the combination of the big ones and the small one would look really pretty. So I'm just kind of sliding those in the wreath there. And I like a coastal in everything. So I have some of those white starfish from the Dollar Tree this summer. Only one of my Dollar Trees got that coastal stuff in, but they have the starfish and the sand dollars, and I love them. They're so cute. And so I decided just one flower is enough, and then I'm attaching my starfish with just a little bit of hot glue. I did the same thing with my white flower, and then I'm going to fill in down here with one of those sand dollars that I got at the Dollar Tree and attach that with hot glue as well. And I decided to add a few more of the white flowers, trying to get it exactly the way I like it. I love the blue, the white, and the wood, and it looks really great with some of the other decorations that I made today. And I just about have it Just trying to get those white flowers. I had some of the blue leaves falling out, so I do use some hot glue over there to make sure that everything is good and secure. That's kind of where I started, over on that side, and I want to make sure that they don't fall out up there. And I think that's it. What do you guys think? I think it turned out really cute. I am really happy with how it turned out. And just using a little hot glue there on the right to make sure. And then I was like, do I want another flower? And then I'm like, nope, it looks perfect as it is. I love it. So cute. Okay, I wanted to make a different leaf sign, and I am using just a Dollar Tree sign from the summer. Doesn't matter what it is, but it does have a little bump out on the front. So I'm just using my little spatula from the Dollar Tree to try to get that off. Just because I want to cover that, I want to cover my back. And I'm going to use that wood leaf sign that I got at the Dollar Tree, and this one's a little different. It's not the whole leaf, and it's not that intricate pattern. It's the shape of a leaf, and it's got like the palette boards like on a backing. So I thought that would be a nice contrast. And you know my trick for the back of the signs, I like to cover it with the wood contact paper just to make it look more finished and more professional. So I just cut it out bigger than the back of my sign, and then I use one of those sanding blocks from the Dollar Tree again to cut that off and give us a really clean cut, and we will be ready to work on the sign. Now this sign is one of the cheaper Dollar Tree signs, so it's a little thin and it's a little bowed, so I do work with it a little bit. I find that if you do put heat on it, it does kind of help with the bowing on those signs. And I'm kind of deciding what I want to do with this. I know I want to put a leaf on there. And now this one is already brown. So I am going to go ahead and kind of do the same thing I did with the first one to try to make it look a little bit more wood-like. And so I'm using that Antique Wax by Waverly and my chunky brush from the Dollar Tree and giving it a sloppy coat up and down. And it dried pretty fast on the back of that sign, and I'm just trying to wipe off the excess antique wax with just a paper towel. And then I decide to go in and with some ivory chalk paint by Waverly and a chunky brush, distress it a lot, the same direction up and down. And then I'm just going in with a baby wipe to kind of blend that together. It kind of looks like wood. And so I'm going in again with the Antique Wax by Waverly and a chunky brush and trying to get some more dark streaks in there to kind of mix it up a little bit. Now this gave me a different color of wood than the original one where I did it over ivory. It gave me that light wood. This gave me more of a medium to darker tone wood, but it does still kind of look like wood. And I'm going in there with a little bit more antique wax to try to add a little bit more variations in the color and to try to make it look a little bit more like wood. And then I'm just drying that with my heat gun so we can start working with the front of this sign. And I'm going to have this sign go up and down like it was originally, so the holes on the top will work for the hanger. Now this leaf has a hanger on it as well, so I don't need that. So I just took it off, and I'm just filling in the holes of this leaf with some of that spackle from the Dollar Tree so that I can paint it. Now this one I decided to just paint ivory. I thought paint would be a good technique on this one, especially since it's got the different slats where you can see in between. You could cover it with, you know, Mod Podge or that technique we learned with paper, but you'd probably want to cut in between the seams there. And I kind of wanted to bring that ivory color into this project. And I'm kind of going in and trying to do the boards that were exposed too with just a tiny brush. And then just drying that chalk paint with my heat gun. And you know I have to distress it. So I'm using some of that Antiques by Waverly and my chunky brush. And I'm going over, focusing a lot on the edges and then a little in the middle. And then I'm just going to go in with my baby wipe and wipe off the excess. Now, it was a little darker than I would like, so I did add a little bit more ivory back in there just to brighten the project up a bit. Just drying that chalk paint. And weathering it and getting it just how I like it. If you find you go too far in one direction, you can definitely go back with the other color and fix it. So I am just measuring. Should be enough room on this sign for a word. And so I cut another stencil out on my Cricut. I will post a link below with the fonts that I used on Cricut Design Space to make these stencils. And this one is going to say Fall in Love. I thought that would be pretty cool for fall. Have a falling leaf on it. And so I'm just weeding out that pattern for my stencil with my weeder. And there we go. It's ready to go. I'm going to use some of my paper transfer paper. I love this stuff. I get it on Amazon. And I am peeling off the back. And we're ready to attach the stencil. I decide to do it on the top of the sign. And I'm just trying to get it somewhat centered. And scraping that on with my Cricut scraper and then just pulling off my transfer paper is going to leave us with a really awesome stencil. If you don't have a Cricut, you could always use a paint pen and try to hand paint this on. Other ideas is you could use the letters, stickers, or the rub-ons from the Dollar Tree. And I'm using some ivory chalk paint by Waverly and my little stencil brush from the Dollar Tree. And just daubing all over my stencil. And of course I used that painter's tape around my stencil to make sure that I didn't mess up the rest of my sign. And then I am just going to dry that paint. And again, I love hand-painted signs. I think they're so much fun. And if I would have known that I could have made such cool stencils with my Cricut, I would have got one years ago, for real. I got mine for Christmas this past year, and oh, I love it. It's so much fun. Okay, just peeling off the stencil and using my weeder to get out the inside pieces that are still on there. And I think it looks pretty good. So I want to make it say Fall in Love and then have this leaf falling on the front of it. Trying to decide which way I wanted it to go. And I decide I like it that way the best. And I'm going to use some wood glue on those slats on the back. And a little bit of hot glue too to speed things up. And it is ready to attach to our sign. I'm trying to remember how I wanted it on there. And just gluing that on. Now the holes on the top are where they need to be. So I'm going to use just the same hanger that came with it. I'm just poking a hole through my vinyl that I put on the back with my little weeder. And just feeding that same hanger through. Easy peasy. Now I decided it needed a little bit of detail. I thought about a ribbon, but then I thought maybe some of these blue leaves would look really cute. So that's all I'm going to do is two of them come attached together. And I'm going to put it around the rope on the sign. And I'm kind of trying to decide what the best way to attach it is. And I end up just using a little bit of hot glue to glue that on. And it gives us a little bit more detail to the sign. Brings in that blue color. And has some more leaves for fall. I thought about doing a third one. But then decided that it didn't really need it. It looked fine with just two. And I'm hot gluing that side down too, just to make sure that they don't go anywhere and that it's laying just how I want it. And are you ready for another project? Okay, so this is a thrift flip. I picked up this glass leaf. I guess it's like a candy jar or a candy bowl from my Goodwill store for 99 cents. And I thought it would be a fun thrift flip. Now, I want to paint it, but I also want it to be usable. I want to be able to put candy in it or whatever I want and make it food safe. So to do that, I am going to paint the bottom of this glass dish. And I'm just using rubbing alcohol to make sure it's good and clean because I want the paint to adhere to it. Now, I thought I could make possibly my own spray paint. So I'm just using some hot water and some aqua acrylic paint. and an empty spray bottle and just trying to mix it up, I'm going to attempt to make my own spray paint. I didn't really want to use chalk paint or something with a brush because I thought you'd be able to see the brush strokes on the other side. So I thought spray paint would be the best, and I wanted something that I could use inside, and so this is what I came up with. So I just put a thin coat on there. I didn't really measure. I just put a little bit of hot water in that bottle and spit in some acrylic paint. And I probably should have added more paint because these first couple coats go on pretty thin. I'm using my heat gun to try to dry that, and it actually kind of blew some of the paint off of it. This was not a clean project, but it was fun for sure. And I really like how you can see like the raised stems of that leaf, and I decide it needs to be thicker. So I do add more acrylic paint so I can get better coverage. And I am just spraying that on in a thin layer and then drying it with my heat gun. And I really wanted an even finish. I found that each time I did it, there would be like maybe a spot or two that didn't adhere real well. So I felt like I kept having to do more and more coats. But I finally get it to a point that I like it. And I thought I was done, and then I was like, oh no, there's some places that you could still see through. I noticed when I did this formulation with the more paint, it did bubble when I would spray it on, but the minute that I would hit it with my heat gun, the bubbles would go away. And I am just making sure that all the pieces of it are evenly covered with that pretty aqua color. I really love this color. Actually, it's one of my favorite colors to decorate with. I have it a lot in my house, and this is what it looks like on the other side. I did have a little bit of paint bleed through from the pile of paint that was on my mat, so I'm just using a little rubbing alcohol to clean that off the front where I don't want that paint. And this was a super easy thrift flip, and I love how it turned out. It's so pretty, and you could do this with about anything from the thrift store. Okay, it's final reveal time. We have our It's Fall Y'all sign with a wooden leaf with the fabric on it, and we used that plastic wrap method, and I think that turned out so cute. It's very rustic, very fall vibes. And here is our little fall sign we made with the little pallets or fences from the Dollar Tree, and we just used popsicle sticks for the letters and one of those leaf ornaments from the Dollar Tree. And I love how it looks. So fun. And here is our little wreath we put together with all Dollar Tree supplies. And of course I had to give it a little coastal flair with a little starfish and a sand dollar as well. But I really love these blue fall leaves. I think they look so pretty. What do you guys think of this? And it goes nicely with this Fall in Love sign that I made out of a Dollar Tree sign and the Dollar Tree wooden leaf sign. A little bit of stenciling with my Cricut and a couple leaves up there just for a little touch of blue. And last but not least, we have our thrift flip from my Goodwill store. I got this nice leaf candy dish, and I painted the back with a DIY spray paint that we made out of acrylic paint and water. I love trying new things for you guys to see what works and what doesn't work. If you have any ideas, I would love to hear them, and please tell me which item you like the best today. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Until next time, bye everybody.